And we're back.
We're back.
From where?
We're back. Thanks for staying with us. From wherever we were as the last time you listened to us. Appreciate you joining us today. Whenever you are, wherever you are, this is the Founders podcast. My name is Brandon Miner, joined here with my two co-hosts, Jordan Hansen and Matt Lamb. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And we're broadcasting currently live from the United Commercial Insurance Studio.
Yeah, it's always live when we do it.
And in person.
Live and in person, in studio, United Commercial Insurance. Give us a call, whatever your needs, insurance needs. We got you. Okay? We got you.
That was the shirt.
That was the shirt
From
that
Monty.
one of our guests, I don't know if it was our last guest or not, one of our guests was wearing, Monty. Got a mini pod edition for you guys today. Excited to bring that information to you, but in the spirit of mini pods, we have a segment.
You said you had one. Let's go.
I do have a segment, and I'm interested to
Surprise
see.
me.
And this one is an audible. I have a couple of different things written down, but this one's an audible that I thought was interesting.
Like audible as in like you're changing the plan?
That's right. He had a plan. Now he changed
okay.
it.
Yep.
Okay, go.
This segment's called Would You Prefer?
Not would you rather.
Same idea.
Correct. No,
This is the sophisticated version.
this is
What's your preference?
Would you rather is like the kids play.
yeah. This I'm going to present to you a scenario, and you have to say yes or no to that scenario, not like choose between one or the other. Does that make sense? Okay. If I were to tell you today that if you walk out into the parking lot and every single vehicle on the road does not have a steering wheel and is controlled by automation or a computer, and that computer is regulated by a central regulation department, so you have no control over the vehicle.
Yeah, it's like a bunch of
self-driving.
taxis, right? But no drivers.
Right.
Yeah, you just put in where you need to go. It takes you.
Would you accept that
Today?
today?
Or I mean, you have to have a compare
Assuming-
to, though, right?
Well, compared to right now.
compared to right now.
Yeah. Assuming that it's been vetted and it's safe technology,
And no destination. I can go anywhere I want.
anywhere you want.
So it's not like I'm limited. Now I can't go to the mountains.
You
So that's
type
not how it
in
works.
the address, put in a point.
You gotta is it like an Uber? You gotta pay? Or
No,
is it
it's
just
your
like-
car.
Let's
You
say
buy
you
your
have a
car.
Oh, it's your car.
It's your car.
It's my own car.
Yeah, you buy the car, but you don't drive it.
Yeah, I would. I love that. I'm in. I like that idea. My wife hates it. But
Yeah.
Yes, I like it.
Sure. I think we're going there anyway.
Why?
I would hope it would be safer. That'd be my main
Yeah,
hope.
I think, and I remember hearing people talk about this, that it may come to the point where driving your own car is like only the very, very wealthy people do, because insurance is too expensive otherwise, because the automated system is going to be so good that it's not going to have.
So I have a self-driving car right now,
Fully.
fully self-driving. I can put in a destination and it'll drive me there. And it drives very much like a new driver student,
Cautious.
meaning
New
it
student driver?
it does dumb things sometimes.
Oh.
Like it'll change lanes to a lane that's ending, and now I have to stop and get back in.
Yeah.
And so, which is totally fine. I completely everybody understands that.
Because you're saying beta. Again, I say beta.
beta.
Not, it's early, right?
It is
what
beta.
You're saying. Yeah. So, but we're assuming in your scenario
Yes.
that this is not going to have that problem.
Yes. And so a couple things. One, yesterday I was driving home.
Right? You were the car.
Probably a combination. It was a percentage.
Okay.
It's a spectrum of who's driving. And I was driving home.
It's a fluid situation.
It's a fluid, yeah, depending on the time and the date and how I feel. But I was driving home and I came to a large backup of cars, right? And as everybody does, we start looking for other ways around, right? Going through neighborhoods, whatever. So I kind of snaked my way through my normal route, but I forgot that I had to turn around and pick up something from Lowe's. So I turned around and I actually passed the problem of the backup, and it was an accident on a major road. by a school, by 3 schools, right? And it was a car in the middle of the intersection that had a bicycle underneath it, like a road bicycle.
So
And-
he's not a school. That wasn't like a school kid, probably.
No, and so it said an adult female taken to the hospital, right? Mm-hmm. And then on that same horizontal east to west road by my old house, someone was that at the exact same time, they swerved off the road and flipped their car into the canal along the road because they were texting, right? And so a couple points, right, for me. You look around, and this isn't an exaggeration. When you're driving to work, 50% of the people driving their cars are staring at their phones, either at a stoplight or actively driving.
Right.
Okay. And I'm not saying I'm not one of them, right? I think we all do it.
Well, that's why you only see it 50% of the time. The other
50% you're looking at your phone.
Look at all you guys on your phones.
Every time you look up and then you tweet about it.
Yeah.
Everybody's on their phone.
Man, they suck at driving.
sucker next to me is on his phone.
That's never going to get better. It's not like it's a specific subset of people like kids or
certain
older
time
people
frame where it's going to die
or a
out.
certain time frame. We're all doing it. Kids, old people, middle-aged people, younger people, everybody's doing it. And and phone addiction is not going to get better, right?
I think, people didn't wear helmets. I would say a lot more people wear helmets than they used to. Seatbelts, exactly. They didn't wear seatbelts. I think the question is it going to get better? And it's never going to be perfect, certainly. There always are going to be some people. But I don't think I'm on my phone as much as I used to be. And there's a lot more hands-free mode that makes it easier. You can talk to your phone easier and tell what to do. It's never going to be all the way gone and self-driving. The question is, does it reach a better point, or does self-driving come in first?
Yeah, I think it's just hard because the habit of grabbing your phone is so strong that even if it has all the technology in the car that you can do everything without looking at your phone, it's like reaching down and grabbing it and looking for a notification is so powerful.
I know. I agree.
And I just wonder, you talk to subsets of people and they're like, no, I want to drive it. I get that. I get that you want to drive your car.
But you're not driving your car.
Yeah.
You're looking at your phone.
Yeah, that's true.
On your knee.
Yeah. I just, the safety factor of it. I mean, if you could take the number of deaths in Idaho, automobile deaths in Idaho, and you can cut that by 90%, don't you think? Don't you think you're almost forced to say?
Yeah, it's almost the insurance would cost would be too high. And maybe I don't want to say it ever will be illegal to drive your own car, but it's not crazy, if you think. Now, obviously, we're skipping over some technological leaps that have to happen. I think self-driving cars could do really well right now, but they still don't say, hey, they still say you have to pay attention, right? It's not to the point where you don't have a steering wheel.
So what it says is, it's interesting because it is in beta mode, and it says on the screen, it's like, look, this full self-driving will and could do the worst possible thing at the worst possible moment.
Yeah,
and so perfect. You have to be staring at it, right?
It's going to get better. I think it's going to get better. I don't know how it's going to handle something unexpected. I think where the problem comes in is when it has to make a decision between two bad choices.
Yeah, right.
How does it do? Then they have to program. Okay, there's 3 kids, 1 old person. Who do you pick?
I don't know that it would know the difference. Well, I think it could see the difference in height.
Yeah, whether it's there's a hypothetical question here. But.
I think I was reading an article about traffic. And they were like, the best way to handle traffic is because let's see, but not pileups. What is it? What is it called when traffic kind of bunches up? I guess it's a bunch up.
Like stop and go, or
yeah. So it's kind of an accordion effect, right? It's like this kind of heartbeat pumping where cars like start and stop and start and stop. So they're like, here's the best way to handle, and if we could all do this. This is the best way to do it. When a light turns green, every single car in that line, if there's 30 cars,
moves it now,
has to go at the exact same time at the exact same pace. And all of them will get through. But because the person at the start goes and then they all go and then they kind of stop and it doesn't work. And so if you all go at the same time, you'll all make it through and there won't be traffic. Right? And he's like, but the only way to do that is the car has to communicate with the stoplight. So all cars know when it's going to turn green so that they can all go at the exact same and communicate with the other cars to be like, well, you have to go too, right? And so I just think the possibilities are fairly exciting about how it could get.
It helped traffic a lot. Yes, certainly.
And safety, if you can, I mean, if it was a rarity to say, oh, I was injured in a car accident or I had a friend or a family member die drunk driving or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus you can play.
And you always get those last few cars that are like turning left that run that red light.
Yeah.
Which make it slower for the person that got the green light.
When you're in that late for 3 times, I mean, you're thinking,
going.
I'm going. I realized it turned red 3 cars ago.
I'm not saying I'm not that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just a ripple effect, right?
That's right.
Not only that, I think to commercial driving, the biggest problem that commercial transportation companies face are drivers. Like,
Certainly.
easy.
Yeah. You're driving a vehicle that could kill. I mean, it's 60 miles an hour. You can kill tons. Like the amount of damage you can cause is just immense.
And so finding somebody that wants to sit down for that long and drive, somebody that's responsible, that's experienced, that follows the rules. And it's very, very difficult. There's a huge shortage of those amount of people. But if you can pay a computer to do that.
Now, how long? I mean,
How
when can
far
we
away?
say there no longer has to be a person in the front seat?
Well, that's a good question. I think you're probably at least 10 to 15 years away from that.
Don't they in San Francisco? I think they have self-driving like delivery cars. They don't have people in them.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're going.
Yeah.
But
well, there's going to be a long tail.
Yes, it's a widespread, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a fluid.
It's fluid. Yeah. In San Francisco, very fluid situation.
Yes, that's right.
I don't know. And people say, oh, jobs and jobs and jobs. But at the same time,
That's not why I don't think you should stop progress for jobs.
It's like a Luddite
Something else
view.
is going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very unhealthy. Sitting in that truck for
it is unhealthy.
you know
It is
hours and hours.
Yeah.
Right.
It is unhealthy. And we can reallocate those skills somewhere else.
Exactly.
Anyway, I think about that quite a bit. At my work, we do a lot of commercial auto stuff, and you just listen to these company owners complain about drivers all day.
Yeah.
Like literally that's it. That's what they complain about all day. And rates are going up and up and up and up and up and up. And you get younger drivers with more accidents and your insurance rate just skyrockets. And so anyway, I think, I would, if technology was there today, I think I would vote for it. And I realize that there's a lot of people that say, I want the control of driving. And I get that because there's a release, there's an entertainment factor to it. I totally get that. And I think that'll always be there. But maybe your negligence, if you're involved in an accident, it's almost like you're always at fault.
Yeah. Right. But so you can put your car, your dog's in the car, and just like, they're like, dogs like car rides most of the time. You just have the windows down and say, all right.
Driving around?
Yeah, let's go put.
The one problem I see with that I did read in a different article that said, if you have a car that you can hire off while you're at work to do deliveries.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But they're like, the only problem with that is, on the roads right now, there's only 30 or 40% of the cars on the roads. Yeah. But if you put 80 to 90% of the cars on the road at the same time, just gridlock.
Do we need that many deliveries though?
But I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. If they're all hired out, huge gridlock.
Yeah, but you have that vehicle and it just sits in a parking lot all day
Right.
while you're at work.
Right.
But
But
it's the point where maybe you don't own cars anymore.
Yeah. Maybe.
Maybe it's like public transit, right?
But
You
it'd
just
have
pay
to be cheap. It'd have to be cheaper.
Yeah, you pay your monthly fee, whatever, to be able to access. It's $1,000 a month. That's a lot, actually.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, if you know your schedule, and then the car could just be there a half hour before you need to leave.
Right.
You just type it on your phone. I don't know. That I would have a lot more control giving up my own car. I'd rather have my own car and park it
I agree.
than I would.
That's why the flexibility, you can hop. I really need some crumble right now. I'm going.
But in like New York,
Yeah.
in big cities, a lot of people don't want to own a car.
But you can walk anywhere. It's the same.
Yeah.
You have the flexibility. You can still hop on the subway or walk.
I think the appealing thing about the subway, we were just there, Jordan.
Yeah, New York. Yeah, Matt and I were there. Not at the same time, but not together.
Not together. Overlapped maybe a day or two.
Yeah.
But you get on the subway and you can look at your phone. You're still going somewhere. It takes the thinking out of it.
Yeah.
So that's nice. I don't know.
Nice. Yeah, Matt and I talked about this, and that's the really nice part about New York is you can just go anytime, anywhere, really easily.
Yeah, Subway's coming.
There's no
you
car.
can just hop on.
You don't
and
need it. Yeah.
Okay,
Go
but
for
let's
more.
talk about the next iteration, drone flight.
Oh,
Like for people or for
For
deliveries?
people.
Yeah.
And well, did you see that Mark Rober YouTube?
No.
wait,
Oh,
which one?
dude.
The medical
The
one?
the delivery one.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
Fascinating. Absolutely
It
fascinating.
was incredible, really cool.
To the point where you're like, within 2 years, I bet you all Uber Eats drivers done.
Yeah,
I mean, it's that
Because the drones are going to deliver?
the way that he described it, and I'll take and you should watch
Yeah,
it.
I'll go watch it. Yep.
But essentially, they have this company that's been doing this in Africa and Rwanda because airspace rules in other countries
say
aren't
that.
as strict.
Of course. I was going to say that's going to be that's the hardest
Yeah.
part to overcome.
But there's also huge problems like delivering medical supplies to these rural hospitals. And so what they do in Africa is they have this drone delivery system it's an airplane where a hospital submits an order for medication or blood or whatever. And then within 30 minutes, I believe, of the order being placed, it gets put onto a plane drone, slingshot into the air, and then flies over the...
There's no runway. It just
it slingshots into the air, flies over the hospital, drops it out of a parachute, and it's fairly accurate in landing.
yeah, wind's got to move it a little bit, but maybe not.
Yeah,
that
but
bad.
it counts for all of that stuff. Turns around, comes back, and they catch it.
So
they
no
like-
motor.
Well, there's an electric
There's
motor.
enough-
Yeah,
a little bit of a motor.
there's an electric motor, and so because
Catch it, so it's like styrofoam. I mean, it's like
No,
But
it's like-
almost like an aircraft carrier type.
Yeah.
thing, right?
oh,
Where
it's
catches
like
on a
it has like
line.
a net, right? It comes over there.
well, it
and
actually
catches.
catches on a line,
Oh, I see.
and then they take it out and they take the engine out or the motor out and they charge it and they put another one in and then off and they're just going nonstop 24 hours a day. And the nice part about it is a car has to snake its way through the jungle, and it'll take like 3 hours what a half-hour flight would take.
That's
straight
crazy.
over.
Yeah.
And so that same company says, okay, here's how we're solving the delivery issue in America. Okay, we have mother drones that are these massive.
Like a blimp. Have you seen that GIF when the blimp and it's like Amazon? There's like drones coming out.
Yeah,
that's the idea, right?
Kind of that, but it's like one large one. And then it goes to, let's say it goes to Panera to pick up a meal. And then what happens is it drops this little, child drone down on a wire that can move around in precise movements. And then the bag kind of, it goes right on top of the bag and kind of sucks it up.
So the mother drone's small then. It's not like
The mother drone's pretty big, but it's not like a blimp. It's
not
like small.
It's like small enough. It's like this size, but
But it's hovering 400 feet above the air, so you can't hear it. It's not super, super loud. And this bottom one isn't loud at all. So it's holding the position way up top, drops a cable down, and this small drone picks it up, brings it over, or brings it all the way back to the mother drone, flies to your office or home, and then drops the delivery in your backyard. And then goes up and moves around. And it's
when
like
people walk by and are like, they hit that cable.
in the backyard.
Or in a Panera. You're walking into Panera and you're like, hey, well, look at that drone.
So they talked about how you have to set up your business to receive these. You have to have like
a helipad.
in a way,
Right.
Because it could be for food. It could be your
CW.
your prescription pickup at
Right.
the pharmacy.
I feel like I'm getting spoiled. Don't tell me anymore. From Mark.
Oh, it's
Rober.
amazing.
It's a good video.
It's incredible.
And the way that they built it, I mean, these lines that catch the planes coming in, it started with fishing poles. Like fishing line. Just because they didn't have much.
Right.
And so
Engineers.
the story of them just starting from scratch is amazing.
The thing is, the technology is, I mean, most of it's all there. Like to have a plane go out there, it's really like
But
having
approval.
It's approval and then exact coordinates, right? But that's like GPS solved. Yeah, that's
I
interesting.
mean, if you started right now and you got a year's worth of deliveries, by the end of that first year, you'd be so much better technologically wise. It's because you solve problems every day on how to make it better. I mean,
they're saving lives. I mean, that's what
100%.
they're doing, and it's
Absolutely.
crazy.
Yeah.
Just
and,
awesome.
And he said, in Rober's like, what could happen is these drones get big enough to where it's an ambulance, and they drop down a human carrying pod at a house, and then you lift them all the way back up and it takes them all the way to the hospital.
yeah,
That's pretty sweet.
it's very cool.
I just, we have food delivery drivers show up to our office 3 to 5 times a day. And their car, it's an expensive thing for a human to do versus a drone.
And not very.
And this is hilarious. We had a guy come last week, and they 2 employees ordered Subway order, right? Well, DoorDash got it wrong. They had one sandwich made at one shop and another sandwich made at another shop, different part of town. The driver went and picked up both of them, came here, took like an hour and a half.
Same driver? Oh,
same driver. And the guy's like, yeah, they had me go to 2 different places for 2 different subs.
Yeah.
And anyway, so if you have a drone do that, like you just take those people off the road. Anyway, exciting future.
This should almost be the pod.
Exciting futures.
I'm just saying, this is like the episode.
We're 22 minutes in.
The segment. I don't even mind talking about it more. This is interesting stuff.
It is cool.
Yeah.
Well, okay, actually to segue into that, you're ordering food. Okay, let me ask you this question, Jordan. You're ordering food at a Panera. You're in line.
Yep.
Oh, wait.
Jordan goes to Crumble.
I do.
Well,
More
let's
than Panera.
no, I want to talk Panera though, specifically.
Okay.
Because you're in line, you go to a screen. You don't talk to anybody. You go to a screen.
That also happens at Crumble.
Does it?
Yeah.
All right, so you're at Crumble cookies, $1 billion in sales. We talked about that.
It's a lot of dough.
It's a lot of dough.
That was your
baby.
joke.
That's a lot of dough, baby. All right, so you walk into a store, you're in line to order that product. You go to a screen, you select your item that you want, you pay for that item, and then
It's just going to ask you a couple questions.
Gonna ask you a couple questions.
That's all it's going to do.
Next-
It's just going to ask you a couple
The
questions.
next question is, how much of a tip would you like? 15, 20, or 25%?
No. It starts at 18 or 20.
Okay, 18.
It doesn't start at 15 anymore.
All right, okay, so let's say 18, 20, 25%.
Yeah, or custom. Yeah, whatever.
How much do you tip in those situations?
No thanks.
0.
You guys tip 0 every time.
Even if there's a person there and they just flip the screen over,
0.
Yeah.
Really? Every time?
Not every time. Most of the time. I just think if people are going to bring you stuff to your table and it's a sit-down restaurant, and maybe I'm a cheapskate, but they're working, right? They're earning their tip. If they just flip a screen over to me, it's like...
we have this culture of tipping was to reward good service.
Yeah.
And especially when it's before, I almost feel like it's extortion. Like, I'm paying you a tip so you don't screw up my order. Like, that doesn't sound right. Like, 100%. If I don't, then I'm scared that, now what is he going to do to me?
Have you been to the movie theater at the Village? The VIP section?
No. Yeah.
You order food. You order food, and they give you the menu, and it's before the movie. And the server comes down to you, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. They have these really nice chairs. You can eat your food in. And I'm like, wow, this is great. And I order my food, and they're just like, okay, pay for it. And they're like, you gotta give me the tip now. And I haven't received anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well,
this doesn't make sense. I understand
how much
tipping
do I
you
tip you?
because you're going to serve me and bring it to me. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But
how much do
I don't know.
should I tip you?
Yeah.
Is it good?
What did you do?
I know.
Is the food good?
Prove that it's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I don't know. Here, I guess. There you go. We both lose because you could have gotten more, maybe.
Matt, you went to stores in New York, of course, probably, yeah. Mm-hmm. How many people asked for tips there? Because I remember going to multiple stores, like they were small, whatever. No one asked for a tip.
What?
Like on the computer screen?
Yeah, they did. They didn't. They
Really?
skipped past. I had more than one skip past it. They're like, oh,
I don't know that I...
Which made me think, is it here? Is it local to this?
Well,
valley?
I've been to certainly Idaho and Utah are the exact same.
And I'm not saying it was. I mean, I have a small sample size.
I didn't notice in New York. It didn't.
Yeah,
register.
either they didn't do it, or
It's got to be everywhere because everybody's talking about it.
Who's everybody?
I've
think
I've
certainly
heard it on the Nate Land podcast.
I've certainly heard it.
Okay, all right. So then it's not just this area.
I've heard it like on a sports radio guy talk about it, national one.
I just know that I remember specifically them skipping past it. And it couldn't just be one place.
2 points. 2 points I was going to bring up. Okay. Point number 1. The norms. Like there's no real established norms anymore on when you're supposed to tip and when you're not supposed to tip.
So it makes you feel ashamed every time.
Yeah. So it's like, do I tip the person at Crumble? Well, number 1, does the tip even go to them if it's on a screen? Or does it go to the owner and then he gives a bonus? like how does it go to them? Because in the
I think
past,
some places are different.
It was like a tip jar and they'd
Right.
all split it, and that's easy. Versus now it's like
I'm sure it goes to the
registered
people.
revenue.
I agree. No, I mean, it's supposed to go separate. It's supposed to be separate on their W-2.
Yeah.
Tips and, yeah, so I'm
I
sure
don't,
they're doing
I don't think you can, because I've heard of places, now that's rumor, but people that have worked at these places that are like, we don't even see the tips that come through the system.
They don't see it. It doesn't come out as an extra. They can't like catch.
Like the employees didn't get it.
I think you have to trust the business owner.
I think
to
I
do
think that's
it-
illegal.
Okay,
I think you have to.
that's
And
fine.
maybe
It's
these
supposed to be
systems are
declared
better
as a
that,
separate.
like,
as a separate line item on the W-2, and maybe they're putting it on the paycheck at the end of the month, and so that's why he doesn't notice it. I would expect. I mean, the better. In fact, actually, my sister Meredith, who owns a pizza place, and they have tips there. She says that she used to just put it on the paycheck, and people hated it. They wanted it, that feeling of going home at the end of the day with a wad of cash, right? So she'll take it out. Doesn't matter if it's on the computer,
Or the cash register.
she'll take it out of the cash register and say, here's your cash right here. So then they walk home with dollar bills in their pocket, and they feel like, sweet, this feels better.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Dollar bills.
Okay, that makes sense. But not every business owner is
Yeah.
going to do it right.
Logistically, that's a pain.
Yeah. Okay. That's number one, norms. Like,
When should you tip?
when should you tip? Because
Now you're guilted into it.
what am I, if I'm going to a restaurant, like a Chipotle, and I'm buying a burrito, let's see. I mean, what is the $13 burrito? What does the $13 pay for?
Yeah, because you don't know the costs. You don't know you're not the business owner, right? So you're not deciding, is that tip included in what I expect for my margins, right? I mean, is like added revenue.
I'm assuming that the $13 I pay pays their salary.
Yes.
And it's an assembly line. Mm-hmm. So it's not like they're a craftsman, which they're doing a good job. I don't have any problem with the job they're doing. But it's like one guy grabs a tortilla and puts rice and beans in it and passes it on. Mm-hmm. And then they put meat in it and pass it on. And it's like assembly line. Okay, that's great. Why do I need to tip there?
Yeah.
What?
They're not setting up their business expecting a tip to cover all their costs, right?
So
I wouldn't think so.
So what's the norm there? And number two, like we have people that tip every single time. But number two, inflation is putting so much pressure on the amount of money you're paying on every meal. Like for lunch, it's $15 to $20 for a meal. So I don't want to tip anymore.
No.
Like, why do I want to tip? In fact, for lunch, I don't want to go to a sit down place because I have to tip.
Right. I make that choice. But now it's like you do it. Yeah. Now, places I go back to, like Garbanzo, and it's my sister's place, so I tip there, and that's a little different.
Shout
But-
out to the
plug for
episode. We
Garbanzos.
have Garbanzo.
Oh yeah, we had
episode.
them on. Yep. So when I go in there, and in fact, sometimes I will. It depends on who's answering the phone and who's making the pizza. Not because I like them better, because I know I've gone to Garbanzo's enough that I know who's going to make the best pizza. Some people
you
they
will
make
tip.
an amazing pizza, and so I tip. I'm like, I know I'm going to tip there today.
Yeah.
And otherwise, sometimes maybe I don't. And they've done a really good job lately. So, but I think that. But then you know what to expect, right? Like you want to reward excellence versus when you go to these other places, you don't even have a chance to see it. You don't know.
Yeah. I think for me, the tipping is that, right? It's a reward
That's what it
for
should have. That's it. Yeah.
going above and beyond. And if I don't get that, why would I tip? And if you're not going to treat me that way, why should you expect a tip? Like you're doing your job, which is great, which is covered in the cost of the burrito, right? Mm-hmm. You're doing your work. That's awesome. And your wage is covered. And now if I really like you or whatever, give me some more chicken on my burrito. Hey, maybe, I'll slip you a little something.
Okay. Well, how about this? What if I propose this? Chipotle. How much of let's say the burrito costs $13. How much of that is labor cost?
Probably most of it. I mean, if you take out margins, right? Most of the expense of it is going to be labor. Yeah.
Okay. Let's say it goes from $13 down to $6, and they're shifting the
cost directly to us, right?
Yeah,
and
to the
they're
customer.
displacing risk onto the employee.
right. Would you get better food? And would they get paid more?
That's interesting. Now, I feel like it would have to be almost said like, hey, we are going to
Correct.
charge really low. Like there has to be an expectation when you go in there that our things are really inexpensive, and we're expecting you to reward a well prepared burrito.
Like you could even put up a
It can't be before though, right? It can't be before. You have to.
You have to say it right, but you
after you
could
see
put
it.
a sign and say this is how much a good experience would be, a great, and then like exceptional, and like that's how much you could pay in addition, and how much our norms are at this location.
That's an interesting idea.
I think it's interesting. I think you're going to draw a different customer base.
Well, a customer and employees, because some people are going to be like, I don't want to take that risk.
Right. And I think you're going to set yourself up as a low value restaurant, right? Low price, where it's like, hey, $6, how good is this food?
Okay, but if it was
Like, are you a McDonald's now or are you a Chipotle?
But what if it was the exact same atmosphere as a Chipotle? And it's like really good food, natural food, whatever. It's the same assembly line. And you see everybody working and they're getting to you quickly and they're getting orders out quickly and the food quality is good. And then you see, hey, if you have this experience, tip us up to get us to 13.
Yeah.
Like tip $6.
Well, 13 should be more than that, right? Because you 13
$7,
plus
whatever.
the tip. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, and then that way, if you're like, hey, if these guys are working really hard, yeah, it's a $13 burrito or a $15 burrito or whatever. And you could you could cue that up in the tip screen afterward. Would that be a better setup? Would you want to own a business like that?
I think it's interesting. I feel like you're preying on emotions. I feel like because the fact is you got that 16-year-old kid there behind the monitor. He's watching. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And you can't help but be like,
okay, what if you hide it? What if it's a
they
private?
don't know who and what. And
What
at
if-
the end, they just get it at the
Yeah.
end, right?
What if it's a private checkout thing?
That's better. That's better. I think the better way is still. I think they should be. I think the business. What's happening is the business is saying they're pitting the employee against the customer, to say, oh, dude, those employees, those customers, they suck. Instead of me paying you more, I'm gonna be like, hey, those customers should be paying you more. Why aren't they doing that? And so they're kind of. I feel like they're sitting back. And so I remember going to a breakfast one place. The server came over and I asked her, as a sit down, so I was tipping her anyway. But I said, hey, how do you feel about this tipping everywhere? And she's like, I work in the food industry. I always tip. Being that, and then she's like, why don't you tip people? You make enough money, you probably can tip them. And I kind of was like, don't you see? The business owner is making it so I'm the bad guy because you're not getting paid enough.
Yeah, there's that argument. And there's a common argument in the food service industry is you need to pay them a higher base because of that, because you can't let other people pay them. You have to pay them as the employer. But at the same time, you can look at the other side of the argument and say it's a motivation, it's an incentive to do a great job to get paid more, and so you can aspire to make more, right? Versus, okay, they have to pay me $8 an hour. Well, what if I could have made $10 an hour?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so that it's like put some control back into there, because you're saying, look, if you do a great job and we help train our customers and we lower the price, right? The hard part with the food service industry is, the prices aren't really lower. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's still $25 for a meal. So
Yeah. And when I said
and a tip.
McDonald's isn't cheap.
Sure.
Even fast food places are not cheap.
Sure. Anyway, I like the incentive factor, because you can differentiate yourself as a server from other servers at your own company. And if people ask for you or request you as a server and you're working your butt off, I love that. I love that mentality. I love that work ethic. I love it. I get that on the other side of the spectrum, there's people that don't do well and they're like, I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it because I don't make as much money and they're making a ton of money and all the burden's on me to do the work and this and that and this and that. Well, sort of. They're making the food. They're bringing it out. They're sourcing the ingredients. They're doing all of the insurance, and all you're doing is going out and smiling at people.
Right.
Like, that's not a hard job for me.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I wonder, I still think I don't like it. I feel crummy, right? When you go over there and you hit no all the time, you feel guilty.
Yeah,
Matt
but
doesn't feel guilty. I'm glad you don't. Honestly, it's
Well,
a transaction.
I've had people say, like, well, you've obviously never worked in the
Right.
food industry because you need to tip servers, right? But I also think like, yeah, I'll tip them based off of how I'm very willing to tip somebody if they do a good job, if I can tell they're working hard. But it's mainly for me in those stores where they're not like,
You can't. It's before, right?
No. When they're not adding any value.
When they're not adding any value, I think about Chipotle people, Chipotle workers, and I don't know if it's a disadvantage for them. Maybe it is, but how far above and beyond can they go in that assembly line?
Sure.
Like, what are they going to do? And that's also why I don't
Yeah,
tip.
but the norm is to really, I mean, the whole foundation of tipping was for a service, right? Like, and it was an expectation to say these people aren't making any money off the cost of the meal, right? Whereas Chipotle and Starbucks and Crumble, they're making their money no matter what, the same wage. They're not getting paid $3 an hour plus tips. They're just making $15 an hour plus tips.
Yeah.
And so that's my mentality. It's like the cost of the meal, me like visiting that shop and paying pays their salary. So why do I have to tip them more if nothing happened? Like,
Right. There's no difference.
I think the big part is the point of sale systems started offering a tip. And so it pushed us all into this situation.
You guarantee they get more money, right? The fact that they asked the question, they now they're going to get some tips.
Because my wife tips every time.
Right, because it's like you don't want to feel guilty, whatever.
Yeah.
Not everyone's like Matt, cold-hearted.
Yeah.
And
Dead inside.
dead inside. That's right. Crunchy a little bit, but
Yeah,
yeah.
a little.
Yeah.
Very crunchy.
Matt asked for a discount on top of it.
You should tip me.
I'm like, do you have any loyalty rewards? I want some free stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they do get a lot more money, which I don't like. I don't like that game. Like,
Because it's a guilt game, right?
You know, like
Not
when
like
you walk into a Winco and they're like, you have to go right. Nope, I'm going left.
Oh, I do that.
I'm going left.
I go for the donuts.
Dude,
hanging left,
I'd
straight
right
to the donuts.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not walking around.
Yeah, you don't want to. You're not a
There's a
mouse.
space there
Yeah.
you can squeeze through.
It's like you really have to shrink it in sometimes.
Shimmy through there. But what about you guys? If you owned a Crumble, would you still just leave that system and be like, well, I'm going to ask for a tip because everybody else does?
I want to say right now, because of my ethics, I'm going to say I don't like this myself, so I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to turn it off. But yeah, at the end, I mean,
You just follow along and
the thing is, it only works unless you either guilt them or it works because of repeat customers, right? The first time when you don't see any, but now if you consistently come in there and Crumbles, like they're like really friendly and they do a good job making those cookies and they are making them back there.
yeah.
Then maybe like, okay, I want to tip them because I'm starting to get to know these homies. But one-time customers, they don't know any good, better improved service.
But I think the tactic though, people are going to tip more often than not, right? Like
It's like that line of like, you can raise your prices.
People are behind me. They might see which button I push.
That's right.
And I like look at the back of the line and I'm like, hey, no tip.
No
I
tip.
did it.
It's okay.
I did it.
You guys don't have to either.
Scumbag.
A thing comes up. Hey, look at this guy. He didn't tip.
Half cookies. Half the cookie.
Maybe times are tough over at the Lamb House. Can't afford to tip.
Yeah, exactly. I just think that we are they, right?
We being the business owners?
Just people.
People.
You know, there's no norms when it comes to tipping, which is a big problem.
It is. Because you don't know when. Like,
When is
tip my Uber
appropriate?
driver?
Yeah, when is it appropriate to tip?
Right.
I don't know. You know, I don't know because tipping I thought was supplement wages to people that were making less than the.
Well, it used to be the server, right?
I'm curious. So I own a packaging business. You wouldn't usually think that would like earn a tip, right? People going to our website and buying plastic bottles and jars and things like that. Yet the shopping cart system that we use says, hey, you can turn on tips in your checkout.
Oh, gosh.
What would happen if we turn that on and they're like,
Habit. Yeah.
yeah, we'll give them a tip.
Yeah.
It just
Seems
seems weird.
ridiculous.
Seems
right?
ridiculous.
Online, they don't see anyone.
No.
First, someone sees it. I mean, it's extortion a little bit. I want your these glass bottles. I'm gonna shake them up a little bit more. You didn't tip me.
My father-in-law, you guys will appreciate this, went to the PGA Superstore, newly opened, Boise, Idaho. PGA Superstore, went in. My father-in-law bought a new set of golf irons there. We were checking out.
Tipped them.
And he's like, hey, I'd like to put a tip for this one employee who helped me. And the manager came over and was like, can't do that.
It's for everyone.
They're like, we can't tip in this.
Oh.
And I said,
interesting.
I was like, oh, do they get a paid commission? He's like, nope, they're all hourly.
They don't want any incentive to be.
Yeah, there's no incentive there. So he couldn't even leave a $20 tip.
With a big purchase like a golf equipment.
Yeah, it was like $1,200.
Yeah, you think this guy is helping. That's someone I would like to tip, because you know that guy's, if he does a good job, they're like, hey, they're talking to you, they're helping you, they're motivated. That's so hard.
But I loved it though. I loved it though, because golf stuff is, if you've seen, incredibly expensive.
Very, yes.
A new golf driver is like $650, right? And so we were looking at stuff, and she's like, don't buy a new driver. You don't have the swing to do it. But here's used equipment. So we went over to used equipment, looked at some golf drivers, and she's like, there's two we were looking between. She's like, well, this one's 150 and this one's 400. Buy the 150 one.
Because she's not commission based. Yeah.
Exactly. She had no incentive. She's like, she's wanting him to save money.
But a tip is not, again, a commission would be based off the sale.
You're right.
A tip could be unrelated. Don't do it as a percent then.
Yeah, but they wouldn't let us do it. I thought that was interesting.
Because they don't want to get it mixed with commission, right? But yeah,
And
that's what you want. You want your employee to give the customer with the, like even your sales reps right here, where they do get paid on commission, but they want to make sure that person gets the best deal because.
Well, the interesting thing about insurance is if you oversell and they cancel, you give that money back.
Right.
So you're doing everything you can to have that customer pay as little as possible.
Right.
So they can afford it.
Right.
So
that's really how it should be. That's a good way to commission, right?
Do you think she would have given it back if he slipped her like a $50 bill?
No way. She he put it under her like windshield.
Because I mean, the whole tipping on these computer system, on the POS system, is because we're all using cards, right? Mm-hmm. Like very rarely do I carry cash, and so the only way he could leave a tip, I'm guessing, maybe he had cash, was on a card. But if he's like, hey, here's $50, she probably would have taken it, right? I mean,
is that even illegal? That's not illegal. I mean, she should be reporting taxes, and the manager's not going to say anything because it's like he's not. This is between you two.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's interesting.
I don't know. Yeah. Tipping culture, I think, is still undetermined where the future lies with tipping culture, because
enough people don't like it. I don't think it's gonna stay like this. It's gonna change somehow
because it makes the experience. It makes it a little negative.
It makes it a little bit negative, and it's always that play of like how negative before it becomes.
Can you push it?
Yeah. How much can you increase revenue? How much can you gouge? Isn't that the price? Isn't that capitalism a little bit?
How long does it stay affordable? You have people doing like DoorDash. You have people eating out all the time. It's like tip.
Exactly.
Run out of money.
I feel a little bad when they're hard for me to feel bad when they're getting DoorDash. I'm like, just drive over there and get it. You can't afford the tip.
Okay, here
but
you go.
They don't use DoorDash, and
Okay, let's say this, Jordan. You are at a restaurant. Hold on. You go to Flatbread Pizza, right?
I do.
Okay, here's the scenario.
Don't tell garbanzos though.
I also use
edit this out.
Okay.
Well, let's say you're you order out from a sit down restaurant. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Order out, like carry out.
You're gonna go pick it up. So you walk in and they hand you the bag of food and they say, here, pay for it. So they bring up the screen and you swipe your card, and they say, how much would you like to tip?
I say no. I say nothing. Now, I agree. It's the same thing, right? It's the same thing as if you go to Chipotle. It's the same idea.
The exact same thing that happened.
That
one's tough. And I've looked, I've like Google searched that situation because I'm inconsistent with what I do there.
When you worked at Cafe Olé, did you expect anyone to tip you on takeout?
No, I didn't. But I
didn't work their table.
That's exactly right. But I had to go prep it all and put it in bags. And it took me away from my other customers, and it bugged the crap out of me because now I have to like sprint around to go get their drinks and sprint around to get their chips.
But I feel like that's the business.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. And so most people, I would just hand it to them. We'd walk away. I didn't ask. Some people would give me a $5 bill. And sometimes they'd be like, do I tip you?
Sometimes?
Yeah. They're like, do I tip you? And I'm like, well, it's up to you. And we'd sit there awkwardly looking at each other. And I'm like, are you going to? And it's like a quick draw.
Right.
Who leaves first?
Uh-huh.
You should be like, yes, it's mandatory.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Half the tip.
50%
go over that. It's like you.
Oh, you only get one bag. That scenario is much harder for me because, and now like Flatbread, they charge you a fee if you're gonna pick up
Carry out fee.
Yeah, it's like a 5% carry out fee
Because of that, they're covering the people.
Mandatory tip.
mandatory tip, I guess. So maybe they're just covering the wages of the host that's putting it together and handing it to you.
That pisses me off a little bit. Because I feel like
Flatbread should be doing that.
Go check it. Go check the.
You probably never even look at it. But the fact is they don't have to list it on the menu. Then you don't see it on the menu.
Yeah,
you see
you're
the
right.
total. But there's, those things like credit card fees when they're like, now if you use credit card, they were going to charge you 3% extra.
Is there a time? Do you think there's a time where computers will replace food employees at Chipotle?
Like put it together.
Yeah.
Like the
Grill the chicken.
Grill the chicken.
Make the guac.
They could. I mean, really, it wouldn't. It's not that crazy. Yes, there's a time.
Okay.
Kind of takes away from the whole like fresh.
Well,
Well, maybe it's still
of it.
fresh. Well, what if?
I think it could be fresh.
What
What
if
is this fresh
it's,
food
what if
made
it's
by
exactly
robots?
Chipotle? What if it's exactly Chipotle?
It's gonna ask for a tip, and that robot arm.
I'm like, wait a minute, and then the
Reaches out and
robot's
slaps you.
gonna like notify my car, and my car's gonna be like, I hate you today. I will not drive.
The
you
robot
anywhere.
network dislikes you more today. A little bumpier.
I'm like, no, I left a tip. Only 5% for my buddy cooking the chicken.
Robot arm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Let us know what you do on tipping culture. I'm curious how people feel about tipping culture. Comment, email, tweet.
comment below.
Yep.